Hello everyone, welcome back to Guess the ELO series where I would be analyzing your games and try to guess your ELO. In this video, I'm going to analyze two games and it's going to be very much entertaining, so I don't want to waste any further time. Let's begin. And before I begin, if you are new and if you want me to analyze your games, you guys can send me your games on this Gmail ID. So let's begin. So starting with the game number 1, white starts with 1 e4, e5, okay, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, a6, bishop cross c6. Okay, so the main move is generally to play the move bishop a4. Black plays knight f6, knight c3, b5, bishop b3, and the game goes on. But instead we have more of bishop cross c6, which is fine. D cross c6, and now we have the move h3. All those who don't know, if a white goes for capturing the pawn on e5, black is having this queen d4, which attacks the pawn and the knight. You have to move your knight, and eventually black can capture the pawn. And once you trade off the queens, black is having the bishop pair advantage, and black is already better. So yeah, we have the move h3 first, stopping bishop g4. That makes sense. Bishop to c5, short castle. Knight to f6 makes sense, simply developing the piece. And now we have finally knight cross e5. Once white has castled up, white decides to capture on d5, which makes sense. And now we have the move queen to d6, which is a bad move. Black can simply take on e4. What's the main problem? Knight cross e4 looks like the best move to me because it also puts pressure on f2, though you can't really capture it. But yeah, knight cross e4. But I believe maybe black got a bit scared of maybe queen e2, because if the knight goes back, white is having some ideas. But you won't go back. You are having this queen d5, which is absolutely fine move. But okay, instead we have the move queen to d6, which is a bad move according to the engine. It's already +2. And I believe white can already continue with, I don't know, maybe just knight f3 pulling back the knight. That makes sense. And that's exactly what happened. And now knight cross e4. So, but this time maybe just queen e2 is a good move. And that's exactly what happens, because you can't really play rook e1 because black is having bishop cross f2 and white is going to lose an exchange. So instead we have the move queen e2, pinning up this knight, and now the idea is to play the move d3, but black can just simply move the queen back, and that's exactly what happened. d4, okay, so I was actually expecting d3, and maybe white will go for a queen trade, but okay, d4 makes sense, striking in the center and also attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back, and now rook e1 makes sense. Knight goes back, and now it's going to be interesting to see now, will white trade off the queen, or will white simply move the queen back? We have none of the above. We have white simply developing the bishop, which is actually a very good move to be true. I believe maybe just queen e1, queen f1 looks like a fine move because you simply put pressure on the queen. Obviously, if you try to capture the queen, that doesn't really make any sense because now it's an endgame, semi-endgame I would say. Black is having the bishop pair and black is already pretty comfortable. So we have bishop g5 and now we have queen cross e2 by black. Rook cross e2 check, bishop to e6, bishop cross f6. So white decided to give up the last bishop that white was having, and in the exchange white has got this bad pawn structure that black is having, which is going to be bad for black in the long run. But for now it just opens up the g file for the rook. I believe at the place of bishop cross f6, maybe white could have simply played the move like knight to d2 with the idea of maybe c3 getting the other rook in, and that makes a good sense. But instead we have the move bishop f6, gf6, knight to d2 now. King to d7, which I personally like, which makes a sensible move because you are just moving your king from the spin and you can just get your rook over here, try to push the pawn, try to put pressure on the king, and that makes sense. We have the move c4. Okay, I believe maybe knight e4 makes sense because you are just putting pressure on the bishop and the pawn. Maybe bishop e7 would have been the move, and maybe knight f4 even makes sense. It's a check and attack to the bishop, king, and the pawn. You have to take over here. And to be true, I personally like this position for white because, first of all, black is no longer having the bishop pair. The king is still in the center. The c5 pawn is extremely strong pawn because it helps white to grab more space in the center and on the queen side. But instead, we have the move c4. Okay, rook to g8. King to f1, moving the king from the spin because black was also at the same time threatening bishop cross h3. Bishop to f5, with the idea of bishop d3 coming up. Knight to e4. Okay, so definitely both the players are extremely strong. They know what's happening in the game. Currently, white is simply threatening knight cross f6 and winning up the rook. Bishop e7, knight to h4, attacking the bishop. That makes sense. Bishop goes to e6, and now it's going to be interesting to see. b3, knight d2, or rook c1. Okay, we have none of the above. d5. Okay, d5, but that's a very impressive move, and even the engine does not deny this move. We have take, and black takes the pawn, which makes sense. Rook to d1, pinning up the bishop. c6, that looks like the only move. And now we have knight to f5. I thought maybe knight c3 would be the move with the idea of capturing the bishop and maybe winning back the pawn. That makes sense. But actually, according to the engine, black can play rook g5, protect the bishop. How about f4? f4, rook h5, and the knight is attacked. If you try to push the pawn, black is having bishop d6. If you take over here, rook d5 is fine. Okay, so basically, black is trying to attack the pawn on f4, and if I try to capture the bishop back, I'm losing the knight. So that's why instead we have knight f5. Maybe the idea could be to just take the bishop over here, move the knight, give a discover attack, and eventually capture the bishop. We have rook e8, knight to e3, attacking the bishop. Definitely now, once again, white looks better to me. King to c7, we have... Okay, white has won the pawn back, and now black is having the long-term weaknesses, the weak pawns. King goes to c6. King c6 is a bad move. You are just trying to make your king even more vulnerable, which is not advisable at all. Rook f5, just attacking the pawn on f6. Rook to g6, which is a huge blunder. Knight f6 is simply coming in. Let's see if white was able to spot it. Yeah, definitely. And now we have the move king to b6, and black actually resigned. So if you try to capture the knight over here, white can simply capture the rook, takes, and eventually in the end of the day, black hunts the rook, and now black is in exchange down with a completely losing position. King b6, and black decided to resign the game, and white simply easily won this game. So overall, I believe white played a very strong game. Very few inaccuracies, I would say. Overall, the game was kind of perfect, and king b6 displays that black is already resigning the game too early, even before entering into the end game, which shows both the players are extremely strong player. Though in this position after king b6, white simply having this knight d5 check, the king move, and white would be simply a knight up with a completely winning position. So yeah, my guess would be, if I need to guess the rating of both the players, I would say the players should be easily around above 1600 for sure, or maybe above 1500. That would be my guess. I would say, to be more precise, white should be having the rating of, I don't know, maybe around 1850, and black should be having the rating of somewhat around, maybe, I don't know, maybe 1780. Yeah, so for white my guess would be 1850, and for black my guess would be 1780. Let's check it out and let's try to understand what's their actual rating. Okay, so with the white pieces, we have our subscriber playing up, who is having the rating of 1724 with the white pieces, and black is having the rating of 1633. So my guess was a bit higher compared to the actual rating, but definitely the game was very strong compared to the rating of both the players. So yeah, it was very much fun to analyze this particular game. Now let's jump onto the second game, and it's going to be very much fun. Let's begin. Now coming on to the game number 2, white starts with 1 e4, we have e5, knight to f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight to f6, knight to g5. We have the fried lever attack on the board. Okay, if white is generally a good player, he usually goes for short castle, d3, c3, or maybe, I don't know, maybe even knight c3. But instead we have the move knight to g5, d5 by black, which is the main move, e cross g5, knight to d4. Okay, usually I go for playing the move knight f5, which is generally the main move, bishop b5 check, and I play the move bishop d7, which is a very solid way to play with the black pieces. c6 though is the main move with the idea of queen f3. You can't really capture the bishop because you hung the rook. But instead we have the move knight to d4. To be true, I'm not really having a good knowledge about this particular variation, so we have to be dependable on engine. c3 attacking the knight, and now we have the move h6 attacking the white knight. I believe black could have simply moved the knight, if I'm not wrong, and that's a fine move. But okay, instead we have the move h6 attacking the white knight. White sacrifices the knight and gets the knight back. And now black's king is definitely weak. d6 giving a check, king to e8, which was a blunder. I believe bishop e6 is a move that looks pretty obvious to me. Bishop cross e6, king cross e6. And still engine prefers white in this position after d cross e7. Queen cross c7, queen b3 check, and black king is extremely exposed, which I definitely agree with the engine. Instead, we have the move king e8, and now we have the move short castle by white, and c cross d6. I believe black would have took with the queen. That makes it more human move, though we have the move c cross g6, just ruining up his own pawn structure. Rook e1 check, bishop e7, d3 trying to open up the dark square bishop, bishop to g4 attacking the queen, f3. I believe just queen b3 would have been a much better move. Bishop f7 is coming up, you are attacking the b7 pawn, and that makes a bit more sense. We have f3 instead attacking the bishop goes back, knight to d2, rook to f8. What is rook f8? To me, bishop f7 makes more sense because if white takes it, black should be fine. But the engine says that queen b3 is much more practical, just keeping this pin alive, and black is only going to suffer. That makes sense. So instead we have the move rook to f8. To be true, it doesn't really make any sense. Knight goes to e4, once again a bad move. In this position, queen f4 would have been a very strong move available in this position. Black is kind of having knight d7 the only move, because queen d7, bishop b5 loses up the queen. So we have the move knight d7, which would have been the best move. And now knight e4, maybe with the idea of knight d6, and definitely black is all busted. But instead we have the move knight e4 first, which allows knight e4, which was a bad move. d5 was simply the best move. And practically speaking of d5 looks like a natural move in the position. Queen f4 check, king f7, and which still keeps the tension. And if white takes over here, bishop cross f6, and maybe black is somehow looking fine to me. But instead we have the move knight cross e4, which was a terrible blunder by black. D cross e4. Why not to simply take with the rook? Because it just keeps the pressure, which was also a bad move. Still, the best move is to play queen f4 check, queen d7, and wow, black queen is just dead. So this was a tactic that was missed by both the players. We have queen b6, bishop to d2, bishop to g5. Okay, so we have e5 opening up the position. That makes sense. Takes, rook cross, bishop goes back, and here black simply loses up a piece. Check, king move, and now I think this is all, that's it. Yeah, queen a4 check, the rook comes up, rook to d5 attacking the rook, queen goes to f2, and yeah, that's just over. Yeah, so after rook d6 we have a checkmate in 25 moves. But personally, I believe both the players, to be true, played pretty bad. The accuracy of both the players should be around max to max 70 or 75. So my guess would be white should have the rating of definitely higher than the black. I would say white should be having the rating of maybe 1400 or 1500, and black should be having the rating of somewhat around that, maybe. Okay, let's say black should be having the rating of 1300 and white should be having the rating of 1500. So now let's try to open up the rating and try to see what's their real rating. Okay, so with the white pieces, Sam chess moved. If I'm not wrong, maybe he is Sam Shankland, who is a Grandmaster, who is a top Grandmaster playing with the white pieces, and with the black pieces, we have a 240 rated player. And that's insane. That's some huge rating difference. But definitely the game played by Sam Shankland was just extremely poor. I would say extremely poor. There were so many chances to punish black, but unable to do so. Sam also played extremely bad, though he eventually won. the game in the end like a Grandmaster. But yeah, that's the fact. The rating gap between both the players is around 2,700, which is insane. So yeah, these were two games which was one of the most craziest game that I've analyzed. Like the difference gap of both the players is 2,700, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I hope that this video was entertaining. This was one of the most craziest game that I've personally analyzed. The rating gap was just too insane. So yeah, I hope that this video was knowledgeable. You guys had fun. If you did, then make sure to share, like, and subscribe if you are new to our channel. I'm going to come up with these more interesting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Oneshot, and bye bye.